So I went to Vegas for ShopTalk's 10-year anniversary, and I'm not going to hold you. I had a great time. Out of all the conferences that I've been to, I felt like ShopTalk was like the Rolls Royce of conferences. Everything was smooth, well put together, very much so, well organized, great speakers, great sessions, great perks. One of my favorite perks was a company called Ship It, I think, and don't get mad at me if that's not it. They let you ship all your items right there on site so that you didn't have to take it. And because there were so many wonderful things, that was super helpful. So ShopTalk's 10-year anniversary was all about AI, which should be no surprise to you at this point because everything in our industry is talking about AI because it is going to change how we do business. But I do think there's a lot to think about before we go implementing a chat bot or before we go firing our staff and data scientists. Like, look, let's really talk about all the ways that AI is changing the game. But most importantly, what do brands and retailers need to look out for, consider, and implement on the tech side? My name is Jessica Couch. I'm a fashion and technology expert, and I go to conferences and do research so that you don't have to. And I just got back from Vegas covering ShopTalk's 10-year anniversary. And the topic, of course, was AI. So that was awesome. Now, is the industry becoming oversaturated with AI? No, but did I walk the floor and see a lot of companies that felt like they were in the same lane? Yes, but that's no fault at all to the companies. It's just where we are because AI is creating a great buzz, but there's a couple things that brands and retailers need to consider about AI before you go committing your dollars or firing people, as we talked about. Okay, first things first, ShopTalk. Well done. It was really great. It was 3 packed days in Vegas, and any reason to go to Vegas is great. We got to do some really dope offsite things. We saw a really dope boxing match where the girl in front of me in the crowd was so into it because one of the women in the ring was her former boss who had fired her. I totally could understand where she was coming from, and she was hoping the lady got knocked out. Now, because it was a charity boxing match, we didn't see any knockouts, but I can't imagine that seeing somebody that you used to work with that was kind of a jerk get punched in the face. I thought that by itself was fantastic, and it was for a great cause. So that was awesome. Just one of the many things at ShopTalk that I think was important. To conference goers, definitely make sure that you wear the right sneakers. Shout out to everybody who can wear heels around a conference. Not me, never going to be me. I think that's crazy. I made the mistake of wearing my Sambas for a day, and the support in my ankles dropped completely to 0. And so by the next day when I put on my New Balances, it was too late. My feet were upset. So if there's any companies that would like to send me some sneakers that support my ankles and that are better and still cute, send them my way. But no, let's just really get into it. So this year's Shop Talk centered around AI, and what do brands and retailers need to understand if you didn't get the chance to attend? Well, it's no doubt that Agentic AI is going to change things. So obviously figuring out how you can show up in the GPTs are going to be important because people are definitely using GPTs to search. Now, there's no need to panic. What I saw on the floor was that there are a ton of companies that are doing the same thing. What it's really about is, have you properly identified your own pain points? Have you really taken time to say, is going on with our company that's unique? What is going on with our company that is different? And what type of technology would make us better? Well, if you haven't done so, that also means that you haven't downloaded my framework that's available on luxuryandfinch.com. It helps brands and retailers figure out just that. What is special about our company? What are we doing? And what are our pain points? That by the time you are ready to select an actual solution, you're not getting sold to on solutions that don't fit your needs. So if you haven't done so already, download our framework, work it out with your team. It's a workbook that has live and active activities so that you can better define what issues are we having before we go and find a tech tool. Now, when you are ready for a tech tool, I am releasing a fashion technology directory that for brands and retailers, all you do is talk to it like a normal person, like you would talk to me, and it'll go through our vetted companies and let you know what's best for you. And then you reach out on your own. So if you're a tech solution, you absolutely want to be in this directory because we're going to get you warm leads. And if you are a brand or retailer, you want to utilize it so that you can take the pressure off of being sold to and figure out exactly what is for you. Okay, we know that As we implement AI, it's really hard to measure its success if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. Now, I sat in on a session, and I won't say who was talking on the session yet, but I noticed that they utilized some vanity metrics such as NPS scores. And while I think metrics like an NPS score can certainly tell you if the person who took your survey pressed a number and gave a selection, sure. But does it tell you the level of satisfaction with your customers? For real, not so much. Does it tell you if that interaction created a sale? Not so much. And does it, again, tell you how to increase the experience so that people can actually love your product and services? Not at all. So one of the things with AI that I first want us to consider is that you will have to determine what your metrics of success will look like. And relying on a technology tool or company to tell you what success might look like for you may not be the best idea. There are a lot of vanity metrics that are floating around, but I think most important in our industry, the number one thing that we should be doing is matching people to product. That's it. So if that means improving your process, so be it. If that means outfitting your sales associates with more technology, so be it. If that even means that maybe you need something in that app to get people in store, then so be it. But we should not get so caught up on this AI train that we forget that the customer is the center of the experience at all times, non-negotiable. The entire purpose of technology is to enhance the customer's experience so that we can match people to product better. Any type of technology that's not in flow with that, not in line with that, or is not helping us to achieve that, I promise you it's not as important as you think. And I mean this with AI as well. Yes, there are so many AI tools that we can utilize, and everybody is promising to take your data, make it more efficient. You create all of these bots so that you can probably still operate in the same way that you do now, but maybe eliminate a couple more jobs, connect a couple more pieces of siloed data. But this is not some type of overhaul that's going to change the life of your company. By not knowing what your pain points are, by not putting the customer first, you could be wasting a lot of time. Now, I'm not saying that the companies at ShopTalk will waste your time. That's not it at all. All I'm saying is before you choose an AI tool with high expectations, just remember, AI is only as good as the information that's being fed to it. So let's talk about quality of data, because that's something you need to be having conversations with your team and really understanding what quality of data is and not relying on a tool to do it for you. Now, one of the key questions that I asked during a session, which I thought was an excellent session by a group of women who were super powerful and super smart and have a ton of experience, was actually centered around quality of data. So what I asked was simple. We see now that AI tools are utilizing latent data, past purchase data, old data, existing data, data that was previously siloed, data that previously sat in one department and didn't make it to the next, and things that, about price, perhaps, the size, fit, all of these pieces that we haven't quite figured out how to connect, but we're now putting this data into LLMs and asking the LLM to then run analysis that tells us how to run our businesses. Now, if you can't tell by the sarcasm in my voice, I don't think this is something you should fully rely on, and here is why. While having past purchase data is great, and there's tons of it, and it tells you things like what was purchased, when it was purchased, how many things were purchased, and so on, it doesn't quite give you the outlook on the customer that would be necessary to improve whatever it is that you're doing and to make sure that you match people to product efficiently. Now, I'm a qualitative analysis girl. I did a qualitative analysis in my master's thesis at Cornell many moons ago, and I helped brands and retailers do qualitative analysis before ChatGPT became a thing, and you absolutely had to do it yourself using Tableau and other things like that, and Microsoft Azure. So much fun. But now that we do have these really sophisticated tools to analyze data, one of the things that I think is super important that was missing in every conversation that I listened to was, how are we going to utilize qualitative data? Exactly. How are we going to utilize the sentiments of our customers? See, we have past purchase data and we have past behaviors. Well, a snippet into past behaviors, because if you bought something, that's a behavior. We don't know why you bought it. We don't know what converted you. We may not know that information, but we know that you bought it, and so we can can make inferences off of that. What we don't have is current customer behavior and future customer behavior and sentiments. Now, this is super important because fashion is a multisensory engagement. And we have hedonic motivation and utilitarian motivations. So much of fashion is emotional. So if we try to dumb down fashion to numbers, quantifiable metrics, and also vanity metrics, we're going to miss a huge piece of the customer profile that I think would make a really big difference in your personal LLMs that you are building. Those qualitative pieces are key to being able to do predictive analysis properly about your customers without over relying on past data. You see, causation and correlation are things that can impact our data, and I'm not sure if AI is smooth enough or savvy enough to tell the difference. I actually heard one of the speakers say that he didn't think that luxury brands needed data scientists and didn't need to hire data scientists, and I'm totally against that. You need people that understand data on a scientific level so that causation and correlation isn't a problem. You see, we think that LLMs don't lie. We think that they get everything right, but it's only as good as the input quality of data, how you can prompt it, and how you can understand the feedback of what it's giving you, as well as identifying gaps in that feedback so that you can improve it. This is why I think that qualitative analysis is going to be key. You see, customer sentiment and actual real life pieces of data from the customer are equally as important as past data. To me, that's cold. Like, have that. It doesn't give us a full picture or a story, but it's there, it's helpful. But now we have the opportunity to really instill the voice of the consumer into our databases so that we can have the type of data that can help us understand the future behaviors. Now, this is important because if we keep relying on past behaviors to inform the future, you can understand how there's a growing gap between efficiency there and even effectiveness. But don't take my word for it. This is the type of work that I do, and how I consult when we're dealing with technology integration is really understanding these key differentiating pieces of how can we outperform your competitors and how can we actually take existing data and make it spectacular versus relying on what everyone else is doing. Now, I did a qualitative analysis before, and what really stuck out was that executives had to hear the voice of the consumer telling them exactly why they weren't shopping with them in order to make a decision about what they were going to do better. They had read a ton of data analysis, and they were convinced that the reason their customers or potential customers were not shopping with them was for something completely different. It wasn't until we actually played snippets from those qualitative analysis that the executives had the aha moment and said, oh my gosh, we totally get how we've been missing our customer. Now imagine if we were just relying on the data that they utilized before and they didn't hear the voice of the customer, we wouldn't have been able to pivot correctly. And this is why it's super important to pull in the analysis on the qualitative side, but I won't beat a dead horse about it. If you want information of how you can do that and set it up in ways that's not an NPS score and asking somebody how likely are they to recommend you or how satisfied they are with what you did, then that's exactly what Luxer and Finch is here to do. So reach out. Now let's go to our next thing. Outside of AI, one of the themes that I heard and I set in on was an executive at Kohl's who was discussing the omnichannel experience, how AI would influence it, but some of the technology integration that was happening there in order to create a better customer experience. Now, the talk was hosted by Rethink, and it was really excellent. And if you check out Rethink Retail, you'll see an interview that I did because I asked a certain question again. One thing I'm going to do is ask a question, because the right question can get you the right answer. Now, what I asked that particular executive was in response to him saying that in order to get more people to shop online, they were going to be adding some gamification to the online app for the Kohl's shopper. Now, being that I've spent time in fitting rooms and stores and retail, and I understand different customers, customer types, customer behaviors, and just various things like that, I quickly understood that perhaps gamifying the app is not what perhaps should be focused on. Instead, as I mentioned before, I believe in matching people to product on a one-to-one at every instance of your business. That is how I pick technology, strategies, marketing, everything. How do we match people to products here in a way that will satisfy the customer? And the first thing that I understood is that A Kohl's customer loves Kohl's because you can go in there and find a discount. People like to shift through all the products. They like to hunt. It's a hunting customer. So when they are online, if that gamification doesn't help them hunt better for the products that they want at a better price, or they can't translate that to the in-store, then what are we really talking about gamifying? How are we really integrating technology for customers who are perhaps in their mid-40s, perhaps have multiple children, perhaps have to shop across generations for themselves, for their kids, for their husbands, and we're talking about gamifying an app? Well, that sounds good, but in what way are you satisfying a need? Have customers asked for gamification? Have customers said, like, I want to hang out on this app more? Or are customers asking to find the right things? So it's hard to really know that from such a high level up. But what I think that we can't do as executives and as people making decisions is get so far away from the customer experience that we're using tech bro jargon that worked in other industries and thinking we can just peanut butter on here and everything's going to be great and that bread won't stick to the top of your mouth and choke you with it. So I say that to say it's nothing wrong with gamification of your app. Go for it. But if the job is to match people to products more effectively, what does that actually look like? Who has asked for that? What are customers asking for? You see, when I did my thesis at Cornell many moons ago, and it's so relevant still today, I like draw from it for any example because that's how far ahead in the future it was. What I realized is that shoppers can be categorized by their motivations. And by motivations, I don't mean so much why they got out of bed, but why they're going to convert. So there's a price conscious shopper, there's a style conscious shopper, and there's a functional shopper. So maybe I just have to get this because I'm super tall and I have to get a 36-inch inseam. That's a personal story. Or maybe the style conscious shopper is like, I just love luxury items. This is my favorite brand. Every time they drop something, I just need the best way to get to them. You can see their motivations. And the price conscious shopper might say, listen, this is my budget. Anything I find within that budget, I'm converting. See, understanding that first layer of conversion and then understanding those second layers of motivated conversion. Is it fabrics? Is it style? Is it size? Is it convenience? Is it, all of these different factors? We could probably work backwards and figure out how do we inspire customers to shop more frequently. But if we're just throwing things out there because, this worked for Apple, it worked over here when we were selling earbuds or whatever it is, then we've totally missed that the fashion and retail shopper is highly emotional. There are hedonic motivations and there are utilitarian motivations. And both of those things need to be considered when we're thinking about implementing some type of technology. The purpose of online shopping is still to help customers shop, is it not? So when we're thinking about just throwing anything in there, I say let's back up and let's really put our consumer hats on and understand it. Now, this is easy for me because I've spent 10,000 hours in fitting rooms with customers over, the size, products, all of those things firsthand, boots on the ground for many years to understand the psychology of shoppers. And then I followed them online. And then I set up scenarios where I could watch them. So I center the customer as the most important part of this whole tech integration piece because it's tried and true, and that's what I've seen over time. And honestly, nothing has changed. So even though there's a ton of AI coming out and all of this data that we're collecting and new ways to do business, customer centricity is not going anywhere, which means that you have to do a better job of understanding your customer. We're in a new era with technology, so putting the customer first means something different than it did 2 years ago or even 5 years ago. And I recommend that every so often you need to update your personas with relevant information that gets granular on exactly what their motivations are. Who cares? Silly metrics. Again, vanity metrics goes in both ways. It can be like, oh, he's a blonde girl and she just has so much fun on the weekend and she loves to shop. That's stupid. What you need to understand is those previously mentioned hierarchies of motivators to get to the purchase. That is how we define customers in a modern age. So if you haven't done so already, I suggest you reach out to me because I don't have enough time to explain how to do that on this video. So let's get back to ShopTalk. ShopTalk was an awesome experience. What I would love to do is see more brands and retailers there and have interviewed them and maybe have a good understanding of why they're coming to ShopTalk or even why they're not coming to ShopTalk, because there was so much great information and made me wonder, how are brands and retailers really going to integrate technology? If it wasn't for me and all of these videos, I'm honored. So anyway, if you want more insights on how you can integrate technology, I do suggest that you join the Fashion Technology One-on-One newsletter. It can be found on Substack and it's also found on LinkedIn. Make sure you join it because I will be putting all of my insights from ShopTalk and insights in general from what I'm noticing so that we can cut the gap between technological solutions and brands and retailers. Now, a couple things to note: make sure that you follow the Retail Boss page because I do really dope tech demos on that page, and we're going to be releasing more and more so that brands and retailers can see what's really out here and get a first person understanding of exactly how it works. But also, like I mentioned earlier, if you're ready to integrate technology, I suggest first download the framework. That's it. Go over it with your team. It's a workbook. It has tons of information, exercises, and details that will help you make the right decision so that by the time you're ready to say, okay, this is our problem, this is what we're looking for, this is who's going to own it in our organization, and this is how we're going to measure success. If you can't say all of those things now, I suggest you start with the framework because that's what it is built with, and let me know what you think about it. Lastly, I am releasing the Fashion Technology Directory ASAP. Talk blew my mind so much. I was like, I want to tweak it just a little bit more because I found out how important it is for tech companies to get actual leads that are warm and how important it is for brands and retailers to know exactly what they're looking for. So for the brands and retailers, you'll be able to just talk to the interface normally like you would talk to me, and it will choose from our vetted solutions on the back end and tell you exactly what companies you should reach out to. And then for technology solutions, you get vetted leads and you can work with us to set you up with. For the technology solutions, you get better, warm leads of motivated brands and retailers who have already done their research on you and are ready to convert. And we can help you keep a steady stream of brands and retailers to talk to. So consider us a matchmaking service, but we get it right. And it's just wonderful. So make sure you go on luxorandfinch.com to take a look at all of those resources because we're still letting tech companies in at our entry level rate right now of $60. Oh my God. So get on it because it's absolutely going to change once we launch. But your job is to help match people to products effectively, which means I work with tech companies and I work with brands and retailers to just improve your process and really marry these two sides together because I am in the middle as a fashion technology expert and integration strategist. So I really hope you enjoyed this. Follow the newsletters for more detailed information about ShopTalk, what went on and how it will affect you. And of course, you can always reach out to me should you have any questions. I love questions and I bet you I have the answer. So thank you so much.